Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Top Franchise Legal Players series here with 1851 Franchise. We are thrilled to be joined alongside Miss Kitt Shipe, a franchise legal representative with over 20 years of experience setting up franchise models, buying and selling companies, counseling multi-unit agreements, and virtually any other rigorous detail that you can imagine within the franchise legal industry. This right here is somebody that has definitely made it happen. She is a graduate of the University of North Carolina School of Law. Her current duties are with the legal firm Kilpatrick, Townsend, and Stockton, based in Atlanta, Georgia. And needless to say, we've got somebody with some serious experience here on our program. Ms. Shipe, thank you for joining us. And first and foremost, as far as your backgrounds and how you got experience within franchise law, what is it that really drew you to the field, and how did your passions really come alive in the beginning?
So truly, initially, it was just kind of by accident. I was a first year out of law school, and I knew I wanted to be a corporate lawyer. I liked the idea of helping people build things and not, litigation, which I think it, seems not as constructive as an area, as an area in the law, although they serve their purpose at the right time. And I was asked to be a part of the franchise team as a brand new lawyer and did not know much about it. But it was headed up by a man named Rupert Barkoff, which he was one of the greats in franchising and was a great mentor. And as I got into the work, I found I really enjoyed it. And also it is a very congenial part of the bar, I would say. I think I'm not sure why it's evolved that way, but franchise lawyers are some of the most sociable and helpful lawyers around. So I feel fortunate to be a part of this bar.
Absolutely. And that's definitely, certainly an attribute you can feel pretty good about from a legal perspective, being able to be that personable with people and really helping entrepreneurs accomplish what they're looking to make happen at that point. And not to mention having such a sophisticated knowledge for it all. I can only imagine that's probably a pretty gratifying thing to be going about right there. And as far as how you've been able to help different franchises, and especially, you mentioned all the different law insights that are just required to be a specialist in this field. You certainly have a pretty good grasp on the modern landscape of what's going on within franchising at this point. And are there any common issues or, call it legal hurdles or call it different challenges that might be in the industry right now as far as just 2021 and looking forward? And how have you really been able to guide people past those modern issues?
Sure. So a lot of my clients, and I think most franchise attorneys can attest to this, are coming with very COVID specific issues. Initially, we saw a lot of modifications to agreements because people just couldn't get their units open. Some royalty reductions, some relief on ad fund. And then, now we're seeing problems with staffing. And, what do you do? The franchise locations simply cannot operate the prescribed hours. Are they trying hard enough to get staff in? How do you evaluate that? But I would say, really what continues to be the issue that lawyers talk about the most is the joint employer issue, which I know everyone is probably really tired of hearing about because it's been going on, for probably well over a decade. And it does seem that each administration, changes the landscape drastically. And, but what we've seen this summer in July is a rollback of a clear, bright line rule that the Department of Labor put out there under the Trump administration that really eased a lot of franchisors' minds about whether they were going to be held responsible for their franchisees' employees. Now, since July, and that's been rolled back, it's again uncertain. And will that lead to more litigation? Because uncertainty tends to do that. And does it spell doom and gloom for franchise systems? I think what we've really learned is that it doesn't, right? We've lived through this before. We've seen how this plays out. It could mean more systems have more litigation, but the vast majority of systems are going to be okay. And even in states where laws are very strict, i.e. California, you see franchisors thriving. And so, I think they may have to make some modifications to their system, but overall, it somewhat becomes an academic subject for lawyers at conferences. But so that's what I would say. It continues to be on the horizon.
This is the big importance for why you definitely want to track down a legal professional when it comes to setting up different franchises, because you get all these insider perspectives, and that can definitely be some invaluable information to help lead people into where they want to be. And as far as how you've continued to lead people where you want to be, I guess that's a perfect lead into what I wanted to ask next, as far as some of the more common mistakes and common issues that you've noticed with franchise brands. And this can be either like from a modern twist or even when you first got started with franchising. Are there any recurring mistakes that you see from a franchise perspective that you're constantly kind of fixing as a legal professional, or is there anything that you wish the industry would overcome collectively?
So I read a franchise agreement that I drafted 20 years ago. And until I started reading it, I didn't recognize it as my own. And, but one of the things that it made me reflect on is franchise agreements have gotten more and more stringent. More and more pro-franchisor. And I advise my clients to be somewhere in the middle. I think drafting documents that are overly burdensome. Let me get this centered more. I think I don't have this quite right. And I'm just making it worse. Okay. I think that, agreements that have overly burdensome provisions are, they can push away franchisees. And often franchisors don't get the benefit, any meaningful benefit from those provisions. Conversely, I think that franchisors need to regularly be looking at their franchise agreements and really ascertain what are the true risks in their system. And selectively, those areas should be focused on and strengthened. So just having a more discriminating approach to drafting legal protections would
Sure,
be
that absolutely makes sense. Definitely to be able to follow along with what the true needs are for a lot of these people. And I must admit, I've been asking the heavy hitters here leading up to this one of these last questions that I've got. So we'll pull back the reins a little bit. I mean, I kind of want to touch on just your own passions and as far as where it really has been from your own personal perspective and where your passions have really come alive within franchising. So just really in general, and take this however you'd like, but what is it that you really love about working with franchises?
So from the franchisor side, franchisors and the people that create brands, they are some of the most creative, interesting, they're true entrepreneurs. They're figuring out really interesting ways for people to earn a livelihood. I have really a diverse range of different brands, and I'm constantly surprised at what people come up with. We live in such a creative country. And then on the franchisee side, I think, what I really love is hearing back from franchisees that I've helped pick a brand or buy an existing franchise and hearing their success stories. I was really happy last week because an old client that I had helped buy a franchise 7 years ago contacted me, and we had after probably hadn't talked to him in a couple of years. How are things really going? Are you happy that you did this? And he confided in me that really although he had worked very hard in middle management before he purchased this brand 7 years ago, he was very concerned about retirement. And this had really been the right decision for him. And he was really feeling good about things. And it was a business his daughter was now working in, his adult daughter. And he saw, the chance to really build something for her as well. So those stories to me are really gratifying, and that I can play just a small role in helping people accomplish that for themselves. I think franchising can be just a life changer for people.
Yeah, I
So,
can only imagine how gratifying that can be, definitely to look out for so many people and to have such a big impact. I think that's what really draws a lot of people to the franchising industry in the first place. And to know that there are specialists that are in place to really help out other people. And like yourself with the trained background to certainly bring the best out of other people. That's a game changer for a lot of different businesses. And that's very fun to see. That's where the passions align for a lot of people as well. So there
right.
is one thing that I do want to touch on. This is my last question for you. And because you are the specialist, because you're the go-to person right here, one thing that we like to end a lot of these interviews with is one piece of advice that you think that a lot of people should know within the industry. So for the sake of this, what do you think is one thing that every prospective franchisee should know before opening up a franchise brand?
So I think that the most important advice I give is in a way it's non-legal. It is you need to contact as many existing current franchisees in the system as possible. And I mean, there's a contact list at the end of the FDD of every current franchisee and every terminated franchisee. If I were going to buy, I would call every single one of them. And I think prospective franchisees think that people aren't going to be willing to share. And actually the opposite is true. They will share the good, bad, ugly. Usually people are happy to share about their experiences. And the reason why that's so important is that after the franchise opens, really, and the franchisee has been trained and the site's been selected, the support obligations in most franchise agreements are not very concrete. So really what you need to rely upon is other people's experience in terms of how does this franchisor treat them? What is the culture? What is the support like? The best franchise systems treat their franchisees like customers. And that information can really only be gleaned from talking to franchisees that are in the system and have experienced that.
We have a very multifaceted approach right there, and love the sincerity, love the different angles that you treat that with. And at the same time, we love having you on this program. We are thrilled to nominate you as one of the top franchise legal players in the entire country. And for anybody pursuing legal advice, especially within the Atlanta, Georgia area, you're definitely going to want to track down somebody with this kind of insights. Once again, to Miss Kitt Shipe, thank you for joining us. You are one of the top franchise legal players in the entire country, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right.